Coogan Chapter 10 discusses superheroes as metaphors, highlighting one very practical way in which this art speaks. One thing superheroes represent is effortless efficacy, defined by the book as the power to right wrongs without danger to oneself. This is shown all over the superhero universe. These superheroes save the day, and although they may be beaten and bruised, for the most part, they can fix things without much danger to themselves. Take, for example, the scene in Man of Steel where young Superman saves the kids on the bus from drowning. He's not in any danger, and he saved them rather effortlessly and definitely efficiently. Another thing that superheroes can represent is power, specifically the American viewpoint on their own power. It represents the idea that it doesn't matter how many small battles they lose, they will always win the war, regardless of how beaten and bruised they are, regardless of attacks on their home turf and on those important to them, regardless of how bad it may seem in the moment, they always have something that they can pull out of the bag to defeat evil. And specifically, I can see superheroes as being representative of nuclear capabilities, and specifically second strike capabilities. Rarely do superheroes throw the first punch, but they always have the ability to fight back and win after the first punch is thrown. Also, although they often ally with law enforcement or military, they have the ability to defeat powers that extend past the scope of the military and this law enforcement. This again seems to symbolize the idea that even if the military is overwhelmed and can do nothing more, there's something that America can pull out to help it win. And I would claim that this is nuclear power. From a real-life perspective, if you remember back to when U.S. took down Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, these guys were presented in the media as supervillains, whether it be their culpability in 9/11 with bin Laden and other terrorist attacks, or the fact that they had power and were using it in a way that the U.S. and the world was very uncomfortable with. If it were a superhero film and not reality, they would have played the role of a supervillain to the T. The U.S. and both Hussein and bin Laden went back and forth in battles similar to a superhero film, but ultimately they took down both Hussein and bin Laden. It also seemed not only as if they were the only ones who could have done so, but that it was their duty to do so as leaders of the free world. Ultimately, a superhero film can contain a plethora of metaphors. For example, the X-Men symbolizing bigotry and civil rights, Star Trek and equality, and the list can go on and on. These metaphors can be found within the idea of superheroes, a superhero in particular, and or in objects used in the superhero film itself.